I'm talking, not singing. Weird. So, dating fast. Let's back up for a second, shall we? I'm what my friends have called a serial monogamist, meaning I'd go from one serious long-term relationship directly into another serious long-term relationship with maybe 3 or 4 months in between. And I've been doing this since my first boyfriend, freshman year of high school. So this is roughly an entire decade, and I had kind of grown this dependency and this necessity for somebody else. Part of why I was in relationships constantly was because I thought, if I don't find someone now, there won't be anybody left. I will admit, I am obsessed with having it all together, and having a relationship was part of that. So after my last relationship ended, I knew it was time that I made myself take a break. I have friends who are missionaries for a group called Focus, really cool organization, and their first year in Focus, they're required to do a dating fast. What fast means is like a time away, but then they had to do an entire year of no dating. And at first I was like, yeah, that's what I need. That's what I want to do. But I also knew I was not capable of an entire year of that right off the bat. The thought of being single was very hard for me. So I modified this dating fast, and I set up 3 things. First step is 6 months of no dating at all to beat my record of time in between guys. I needed to prove that I could go that long without any guy. Second phase is 3 months of casually dating multiple people, which is something I had never done, but I did that phase to prove that just because I see someone once doesn't mean I become committed to them right away. And then the third phase is 3 months of very intentional dating. So only going out with someone if I'm genuinely interested, and cutting things off the second I'm no longer interested. And after that, after a full year, I'd be able to go back into the dating world with this new perspective and know what I want, what I need, all that stuff. So let's break it all down. So let's start with the beginning of the breakup. So this breakup was really 2 breakups in a sense. I used this guy as an emotional cushion from the previous. So let's refer to guy A and guy B. So guy A was not a good match for me. We brought out the toxicity in each other. It was a bad time, and I didn't realize how bad it was until things had ended. The second guy, guy B, had this white knight complex, right? So he swooped right in and wanted to make me the person I was supposed to be, and I wanted that so much. And as much as I wanted to think we were equals, it really was this complex, and as I became stronger, he started to lose his purpose. So when guy B broke up with me, I had to relive guy A all over again, and it was the weight of both of them instead of just one had I given myself space. With guy A, my coping mechanism to get over him was to only think about his bad qualities, because I knew if I thought about his good ones that I would excuse the bad. The problem with only thinking of someone's bad qualities is it becomes inhuman. I become this monster figure to the point where if he tried to call me, I'd get shivers at my whole body. I was terrified of him. That's stupid. He's still just a person. Just a bad one. With person B, I didn't really know what coping mechanisms to do. After the breakup happened, I only told one person, and I told her, I was like, you need to tell everyone else for me because I can't speak it. If I speak it, it's true, and I can't handle this truth. I looked up right away the stages of grief. Maddie, you better commit this to memory because you're about to go on this journey. Okay, denial, that's the first one. That'll be done quickly. I was in denial for probably the first 3 months. I didn't talk to my family, I didn't want to see my friends, I was a different person, and I also couldn't write music. So if you noticed a little hiatus in my YouTubing, that's why. I literally lost my muse. And I finally wrote the piece, Safe and Silent, because it was about that. And what was also tricky about this first phase was I was like, okay, now's the time to do all the things that I couldn't do when I was in a relationship. And then I thought about it. I wasn't restricted at all with guy B. I could do all of my normal hobbies, which ended up being awful because I didn't feel like I had anything I could do. Like I had no outlet. Everything reminded me of this person. And I took all the things in my apartment that reminded me of them and I put them in a box and tucked it in the furthest corner so I wouldn't be confronted with it. And just that act was hard enough because I was dependent on even items. And I was trying to do all of the right things to move on and be a good person and get past this relationship. I came up with a list of 30 things to do. So something positive every day for a month, something that filled me with joy. So something like going to the park or trying to meditate. I was really trying to be proactive. And after about a month of the split, Guy B and I, we meet up to kind of talk and see where we're at. And after that conversation, it became so clear to me that I cared way more for him than he cared for me. And I was like, okay, you gotta let this go, Maddie. And so I unfollowed him on all social media because I couldn't keep checking up on someone who wasn't checking up on me. And with no evil or malintent, but just the way it was. I kept monitoring my steps in the stages of grief, and each time I'd get to a new one, I was like pumped. I'm like, yes, I'm working through this. I'm gonna get to the other side. It's gonna be great. And then I had like weird moments where I was like, wait a second, I've gone back in stages. I thought I was at the angry stage, and instead I'm back at grief. And I realized that the stages of grief don't work like a step ladder, but more like a rock wall. And sometimes your hand slips and you go back a few pegs and then you climb up again and it's scattered. And I remember finally talking to my mom and saying, I'm trying everything to get over this. When will I? And she said, you never really get over someone, which sounds pessimistic, but was actually quite a relief because it's not something I can control. Because you see, with Guy A, he was easier to get over because things ended so poorly. But with Guy B, things were good. So how do you get over something good? Aren't you supposed to want good things? It's like, okay, Maddie, you gotta get through this writer's block and write a song about just nothingness. Just write. So I wrote Grown Up, which was supposed to be about nothing, but ended up kind of being a little dig on Guy B because part of why we split was a maturity issue. So after I wrote that, I had broken the curse and I was able to write again, and it was great. These 6 months were really hard for me because I was not used to being alone, and the person who was my best friend was also now my ex, so I couldn't even talk to him about the hardships I was having. I felt very alone. I did the 6 months. And right at the end of that, God had lined up the next 3 months for me, pretty much off the bat. July came around and it was a freak month. I met people everywhere I went. And this is the embarkment of the casual dating phase. During this time, I wrote quite a few songs like Stranger, Blood Rushing, Kiss, Contrast, all about different people, mind you. Those of you who follow my music started to kind of pick up on the fact that something was up. I've had people message me saying, hey, you must have broken up with so-and-so, or hey, you're seeing someone new, or wait, are you? This was a really weird time for me because I was having a hard time keeping track of people. I do want to say, I told everybody up front my intentions. I think clarity and transparency is something really important. I tell people, hey, I'm doing a dating fast. I'm in this phase of it. This is how we met. I will go out with you, but it's gonna be casual. Don't expect anything more than that. And people respond well to that straightforwardness. This was just a time for learning. And there were times when it was really fun. I was always doing something, I was always going out. But then I got to a point where a kiss didn't mean anything anymore. I remember one of the guys saying to me that he wanted things to be more exclusive. He was like, I feel like we have something really special. And in my head, I'm thinking, I have with you what I have with everyone right now, because I am so emotionally detached that I don't care about anybody. And it was this dichotomy of, well, do I not care about anybody because I'm too closed off, or do I not care about anybody because nobody's worth caring for right now? I don't really know the answer. It's probably a combo. But after he said that, and it made me really think, what do I want? Do I like this whole casual lifestyle? Because yeah, it's easy. It was a way to run away and find a very quick moment of satisfaction, but it was nothing longing, and it is not really what I needed specifically. I learned that me being the relationship person wasn't a game. It wasn't a character I was playing. Thank goodness. I actually do really well in relationships. I like being able to think of somebody before myself. I like having someone I can text in the morning and call at night. I like being able to cook and clean and impulsively go to Target with. And so when those 3 months were done, I was ready for them to end. Even though I knew the next 3 months would be really scary because it was back to solitude, right? At the very end of phase 2, going into phase 3, I had a low night and I caved. And I was like, you know what, Maddie? Suck it up. Get the apps. But I wasn't just gonna get Tinder because that's like the Walmart of dating. So I did my research and I got Coffee Meets Bagel and OkCupid. I went on 2 dates from that. Yeah, I was on that app for like 2 weeks and then I was very quickly over it. It's just awful. Anyone who's done the apps knows it's just awful. What was cool about the app was kind of the filter preferences. It's like Amazon shopping, and I could say like, oh, not the right height, not the right look, not the right religion. While I don't think I'm gonna keep up with app life and I'm just gonna stay more aware of my surroundings, now I can put these filters on in general, and it's not me being prissy, it's me saving time. Now we're in the 3 months of intentional dating. And at first I was like, this is gonna be crazy high standards. Really, what I realized is it's what it needed to be the entire time. I know my non-negotiables now. I know things that are forgivable and things that are not worth putting up with. I know that preferences actually have merit and they're not me being prissy. Things like height can matter if it affects the person's personality and how they hang out around you. Things like cultural backgrounds can make a difference when you're trying to blend in with their family and you don't want to fight. Things that help you grow as a person aren't always the things that are going to help you grow in a relationship. And that was hard for me to understand. It was hard for me to learn that I don't owe you anything just because you're nice to me. I had this trend of if a guy asked me out in a polite way, I felt obliged to say yes in order to reward his positive behavior, like he's a dog. And I have more respect for men now, and I have more respect for myself now. Because let's just save everyone the time. If I'm not into you, why waste our time? And yeah, it meant that I spent these past 3 months alone, right? But unlike phase 1, where that really upset me, now it was a conscious choice. So now it's scary because the fast ends today, and it's something that's defined me for the past year. And now I can't say I'm single because it's a choice. I'm just single because that's what it is. But that's okay with me. I feel like I have more clarity now. The desperation of finding someone now, someone permanent, is gone. I highly recommend taking a fast or whatever you need if this is something that you relate to, because for me, if I didn't have the rules, I would have just slipped right into the next person. I felt it trying to happen multiple times during the casual dating phase. The lesson I kind of learned too is just because something's positive doesn't mean it's meant to be forever. I believe that we're all with somebody for as long as you can learn from them. And once you've learned everything there is to learn from them, it's time to let them go. In terms of the stages of grief, I like to think I've worked through them all. I definitely have moments where I retrograde and I'll be randomly angry from some weird outside stimulus, but then I come back to myself. I look around, I look at everything I have and everything I have to offer, and it's a good life. So if you're wondering what happens now that it's been an entire year of being single, being independent, knowing that my worth is not defined by who I'm with or if I'm with someone at all, knowing that my talents are independent of a romantic muse, knowing that I have friends and that I have family who love me. Love is always around, and I'm not in a rush anymore. I don't know. I don't know what's next, and I'm learning to be cool with that. All right, next week, back to music. Why did I do finger guns? It literally makes no sense.